Yeah, so before understanding today's concept, just try to recollect it, what we were understanding yesterday, and then we continue. Yesterday, one of the important concept which we showed the print in our mindset, that is about high availability architecture. Yeah, so that is once the user submitted the request, is that request going to the DNS service and getting with the load balanced URL, then connecting to the load balancer and load balancer to the proxy services to the app services, and app services to the databases. So this is the complete workflow which we have this in the process model. And between that, the one layer to another layer, that is load balancer to the proxy, or proxy to the app, and app layer to the database layer. So we will be having the firewalls which have been defined as a high security point of view, with the public networks and the private networks. And with the single entry point. So one entry point where it has to be mapped to the backend multiple endpoints. So one entry point mapping to the backend multiple endpoints. Yeah, so that is just keep that's the picture. Draw that diagram and keep it before yes, in your desk, or the wherever you are trying to use the laptop. Yes, in that desk, just to keep it that the diagram. So the print it, the layers which are required, because AWS we are going to learn it is nothing but all those points which we need to look into. And not only that, then once we started about the DevOps we are going to talk it is nothing but with automation approach, how do we manage it? That's a kind of architecture. Yeah, that is the main objective. And that objective with the monolithic based applications, how do you work with that? The Docker Kubernetes based applications, how do you work with that? Yes, all those points are the very, very important. That is a basic the idea which we need to have it. Whatever we are learning that, why we are learning this. That's okay. Linux you are learning is nothing but yes, there's app server, or the database server, or web server that is running on the Linux system. So you need to manage it, or you should know that Linux system first of all. Next, we are going to learn the shell script. Yes, those systems, you are not going to have only one system. You will be having there maybe like multiples of the 10, or multiples of the 100, or multiples of the thousands. Whether you have that 1 or 10 or 100 or 1000, how do you manage it? All those systems. Are you going to work it one by one system whenever you have any activity? So that is how do you manage the updates, or how do you manage it, that system. So that is automation steps which we need to implement it, and we need to use it. That is the scripting we are going to learn. Okay, anyway, we'll come back to that, all those points one by one. But today, let's have it from the networking side. One more important concept which we should know. If we have those two systems, so how do you work with that? That is connecting to the remote systems, or copying the files to the remote systems. So how do you work with? And yesterday we were talking the some protocols. HTTP protocol, already we were understanding this, right? HTTP service, how do we install it and how do we access it? But another protocol which we have this is that is SSH based also. Yesterday we are trying to understand it. 22 is that another port. But how do we, when do we use it? It's SH22 port, or how do we use it? That SH protocol. In which context do we use it? That there's some more points understanding that on the remote servers management, or remote servers accessing, or remote servers copying the files. How do you work with that? That is activity we are going to look into that. If you have this 2 or more systems, so how do we have the communication between these two systems? Yeah, those points we are going to look into that. So let's understand it. Are you clear about these points? So any queries, questions, please let me know before starting about this SH protocol and SCP protocols. If it is clear, please quickly just type
Yes,
this
good.
start window just clear. Or if you have any queries, just let me know. Yeah, good. Sushma, Ajay, Yavsha, Ravi, yeah, Srinivas. Yeah, thanks. I got it. At least 5 members. I'm good. Yeah, so now let's move into that. The next, there's understanding that today objective is SSH protocol. So before one protocol, we are understanding HTTP protocol. Now today we are going to understand SSH protocol. Yeah, suppose if you'd like to copy the files from the Windows server to Linux server. Suppose normally once you log in, once you join to the project, are they going to give the Linux system directly to you or Windows systems?
Windows system.
Yes, that is desktops or the laptops. Yes, we will get it, the basic user-friendly system. That is Windows, user-friendly. But actually the servers, like which are working with the database services or middleware services or the proxy services, where those all will be? Those are all either in the Linux servers or if it is the .NET-based application, Windows servers. But from about our Windows system, how do we access the Linux server? The Windows to Linux, or maybe they have given that Linux system, and from this Linux system to another Linux system, you need to connect it or you need to access this system. So how to connect from the Linux system to Linux system, or how to copy the files from the Linux system to another Linux system, or how do we access that Windows system to the Linux system, or how do we copy the files from the Windows system to the Linux system, or how do we copy the files from the Windows system to Windows system, or how do we access that once in Windows desktop to that another Windows system desktop. Yeah, if you have this kind of the requirement, that means one is client and another one is remote. Maybe about your client is Windows system and the remote system is Linux system. So Windows to Linux. Or maybe about your current system is a Linux, that is a client. From this client Linux system to that, you need to connect to the remote server, that is another Linux. So this is Linux to Linux. Source one we say the client and the destination one we say that remote server. Remote server maybe that could be Linux system or Windows system. Or maybe this source system or client system, that is Windows or Linux system. So there are the possible use cases. But how do we do that, like communicating Windows server to the Linux is, we use the SSH protocol. Already we are doing that from, we are on the Windows machine and we are using the git bash, that is sh terminal, and whenever we are using the vagrant SSH, yes, from the Windows server to that Linux vagrant virtual machine, we are connecting that using that. Internally, what is the protocol it is using? SSH protocol. That is already we are doing that, but we don't know that, right? Yeah, from the Windows system, we are accessing that Linux system. But what is the protocol? Main protocol which is helping is SSH protocol. Okay, I'm already on the Linux system, but I need to access another Linux system. So here also SSH protocol. Remote system is Linux based system. We use that SSH protocol, simple. And how do you copy the files? This is connectivity. So terminal you are accessing is nothing but terminal to run the commands. You are accessing from the Windows system to that remote system or Linux to the remote system. Terminal you are accessing is nothing but that is SSH protocol. But if you are going to copy the files is nothing but that is we say that SCP. But SCP also going to use it internally SSH protocol. Yeah, so internally it is going to use it SCP protocol. Sorry, SCP is also going to use it SSH protocol. But SCP, what is that? Secured copy. We know that within the system how to copy the files, right? CP command. One directory to another directory or one file to another file. CP command. But from one system to another system, the Linux-based systems, if I'm going to copy the files, I need to use it SCP. That is secured copy. But Windows 2 Linux system, if you like to copy the files, SFTP, Secured File Transfer Protocol. FTP is a protocol is going to use that. Yesterday we were talking about it, file upload or file download. It uses that FTP protocol. But what about the Windows system to Windows system accessing that? It uses the RDP protocol. Since I'm already on the Windows system, I need to access another Windows system desktop. Windows are desktop based systems, right? Yeah, I'm already on the Windows system. I need to access this remote Windows system. Then we use it. RDP is a protocol, not SSH. Windows system, you are accessing this remote system is Windows. We use the RDP. Remote system is Linux based system. We use it SH protocol. Yeah. Yeah. So there are not. I mean, this is the concept which is required. But what are the tools that we use it on the Windows system to connect to the Linux systems? Already we are using one of the tool, that is the Git Bash tool. Yeah, the Git Bash we are using. And we can use it as PuTTY or WinSCP. That's files copying that. Yeah, there are the different tools which are available in the market. We have other tools also. So MobaXterm, that is one more beautiful tool, especially SH protocol, SFTP protocol, everything in one tool. Instead of using the different tools, if you would like to access the RDP, or if you would like to access SH, or if you would like to access copying the files, that is after SFTP. So all the things that you can use it, MobaXterm. So there are the different tools are available. That is on the basis of the client environment, which we should use it that. Yeah, what do I do that is, suppose if you're going to use that the Windows-based system, so we are talking about it, remote system, how do we access the remote Windows system, how do we access it is, we are saying that's RDP protocol, right? But what is the tool that's we use it on the Windows system to access another Windows system is, if you go to the search option, you can type the remote desktop connection, RDC. Yeah, if you would like to access the remote Windows operating system, yeah, so default it is not a providing. Yeah, so if you would like to access that the remote desktop system, this is for already, if you are using the Windows in the Windows system, that is already available, the default tool, you don't need to install explicitly. So go to that like Windows search option and search for the remote desktop, and you will get it, remote desktop connection. And which computer that you want to connect it, yes, define that computer, the IP address or DNS name, whatever you have, and username. Then whenever you try to connect it to that system, then it is going to prompt for the password authenticated and the domain information, then enter all the details. Then you can access the remote desktop. I'll show this one in EC2 instances. I don't have this other desktop, Windows-based desktop. But in the cloud, whenever we are going to launch it, we can launch it any system easily, right? Linux system or Windows system, we can easily launch it that. Yeah, there we will talk it, the Windows-based system, how do we connect it with the RDP. But now the scenarios, what do we have to see is Windows to Linux system or Linux to Linux system. Windows to Linux system, already we are connecting that. Suppose if I open this my Git Bash terminal, Where is that about our Vagrant machine? Yeah, so here we have this Vagrant file, and here I can use it Vagrant app. App is launching the system, and Vagrant SH. That means Windows system to that. Now we are connecting to that Vagrant virtual machine. But this is the Vagrant based the command. But now can I use it any other tool from the Windows to access this virtual machine?
No.
We can use it, right? Suppose now this is a Vagrant machine. Vagrant machine is running is nothing but where it is running in the virtual box. The background, all these virtual machines are running on virtual box, right? With the background. Yes, this is the box which is up and run. This virtual machine which is up and run. I would like to access this one. How do I access this one? One is with the Vagrant SSH. Yes, now I am able to access that. But can I use it other tool like a PuTTY which we are talking that, or MobaXterm? Yes, that is another beautiful tool. Yes, let me talk about it. How do I connect to this machine from the Windows using the PuTTY and MobaXterm? PuTTY software, yes, which you can download it. That is simple utility. If you go to this Google, if you try for this PuTTY download, yeah, download PuTTY. This is a SSH tool, SSH and Telnet client for Windows. Yes, on the Windows system, we can use it. Yes, you can download the PuTTY, simple utility. Yeah, so you have this like 64-bit x86. Just download this Windows installer. That is MSI file. And once it has been downloaded, and start this file, and just click on the next and complete that. Yeah, simple utility. So that's my system is already having that PuTTY. That's what it is asking that do you want to repair it or do you want to remove it? But my system is already available. So in your system, you can just try to install it and you can use it the PuTTY. So once it has been installed, yes, go to the search option and search for the PuTTY and open this PuTTY. But if you are connecting to that any system, now from my Windows system, I'm connecting to this virtual machine. One approach which we are using Vagrant tool. Vagrant is also one of the SSH client. Vagrant SSH, I'm using that. Yes, that's nothing but I'm connecting to this virtual machine. Virtual machine is running on the virtual box. Are you following the points, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Very interesting and very, very important also. So every day there's like first and foremost activities which we should know once you join is. So what are the system you have? That's from the system. First of all, how do you access the servers? That is important. Leave it off that doing that activity. So whether you have that activity, some like installing the service or restarting the service, okay, leave it off that activity. But before going to perform that activity, first of all, how do I access the remote system? Suppose you need to restart the Tomcat or Apache service. Apache service is not available in your local system, right? So first of all, you need to connect to the system. Then, if you know that Apache CTL, that is system CTL restart Apache or HTTPD, then you can work with that. But connecting is very, very important. Okay, good. So now, so the system is running on this virtual box. One approach I'm using using the Git bash. Yeah, within the Git bash with the Vagrant utility. This is one of the utility. How we are using the PuTTY. This is another utility, vagrant, to launch the virtual machine or to destroy the virtual machine or to stop the virtual machine or to connect to the virtual machine. This is one utility. But another utility, I can use it the PuTTY. PuTTY is SSH based client. From the Windows, if you like to connect to this the system, yes, you can use it this approach. But if you are connecting to the system, what are the properties required? That is another important thing. What are the properties required? First of all, I need to have the system IP address, right? Which system you are connecting that? The system IP address required. So normally, okay, so in the infra, we will get it all the details. But here, how to get it this IP addresses? If config. And you see this here, Ethernet 0 is available, Ethernet 1 is available. So Ethernet 0, which is showing that the 10 series private IPs, we should not use it for external. But if you remember, that's in the vagrant file, we were enabling that one of the network interface, that is a static IP address to this system. So this is the IP address. Now I can use it, this IP address. Now I can use it, this IP address. And SH, what is the port? Yes, now you see this connection type SH. Yes, SH, what is the port? 22.
22.
Yeah, the default it is showing. Now if I try to connect it, yes, it is asking this acceptance of this certificate. Yes, accept it. And a login as. Yes, now it is prompting for that. How do you want to log in? What is the username? So whenever I use it vagrant SH, by default it is using which user? A vagrant user. So what is the username now we can use it? Vagrant. But what it is saying, there's no supported authentication methods available. So it is not, I mean, if I enter that the username, but actually it has to prompt for the password, but it is not prompting for the password. That means password based authentication is not enabled in this system. In this virtual machine, password based authentication is not enabled. Then how do you do that? But with Vagrant, we are able to do this, right? We are able to log into the system. But with Vagrant, we are able to access the system without prompting any password. But whenever I'm using the PuTTY, and if I enter that username, it is not logging that to the system. Instead of logging to the system, it is asking that, it is saying this warning message, no authenticated mechanism has been identified. That means password-based authentication by default, it is not identified, not defined. But how it is working with the Vagrant and why it is not working with the PuTTY? Yeah, the Vagrant SSH, whenever we run it, if I go to the directory, wherever we have this about our Vagrant file, in my workspace, that's batch 46. So here we have the Vagrant file, right? So in this directory, whenever we run it Vagrant SH, it is going to finding about it key based authentication in the .vagrant folder, machines, default, VirtualBox, and here you see this one private key file which is available. Private key file is available. So it is going to use that private key to connect it to the virtual machine. So whenever we run the Vagrant SH, key based authentication it is using, not the password based authentication. Suppose you have locked the door with the key mechanism. That is with the lock and key you have used, you have locked the door. You have locked the door, you need to use the same key, right, to open it. Yeah, key-based authentication. If the key is matched, automatically it is open that. Or some approaches, what do we have authentication approaches? Password-based authentication. That means you need to enter some code, and if the code is matched, then it opens the door. So lock and key-based we have, or password-based the authentication which we have this. The same way here also, whenever you are accessing that the system, key-based authentication. So the background, yes, background is using the backend, the key, and whenever you run it background SSH, so this private key is going to use it as an authentication mechanism, and it is authenticating with the user. Suppose if you delete this key file, then background SSH doesn't work it. Okay, background SSH is in the background, this private key, but PuTTY is not using that key mechanism. So if I define this my IP address, and if I say this sorry, if you enter this IP address of the system, so it is prompting for the password. So what we can do that is, if you like to give that authentication with key based, then you can see this in the connection section sh. And we can define that in the authentication mechanism. Yeah, so here you can say that private key file for authentication. But what is that? Where is that the private key file is located for this virtual machine to connect it using the PuTTY? That is in the background folder, right? So let's go back to that, the D drive, then workspace, and in our batch dot background folder, machines, default, virtual box. But here it is expecting about the .ppk file, but .ppk file support file is not there. Yeah, the PuTTY, what it is going to use it is .ppk file it is going to use it. But what is the private key that is getting used by the background is .pem file. So .pem is the SH mechanism that is using by the background, but PuTTY is using that .ppk file. So how do I convert that the .ppk to that the .pem file? So all these points I will talk it in the cloud. Yes, whenever we are working with the PuTTY connectivity. But here now what I would like to do this is, instead of using this key based, I would like to use an authenticated mechanism. How do I use it? Authentication based mechanism. That is a password based authentication. Yeah, what is that like the configuration that we need to do? That is, let me enable that one property in this system, SSH level. So whenever we are doing the SSH, by default now it is using that key based. But instead of using the key, I would like to use the password based. But how do I use the password based authentication enabling in this system is, if you go to that like as the etc ssh and shd underscore config file, in this configuration file, the first we need to enable that. Let me show those two properties. By default, the authentication mechanism is disabled, the password based. So if you'd like to use it, what you need to do this is, yeah, so here one of the property password authentication, by default it has been set to that no. That means you cannot use the password. And you need to use the private key file. Private key file, okay, the background internally managing that. But how do we generate about our own keys and how do we use it? That is, I'll come back later. Yeah, that is the next activity also. I'm going to show that. But before that, how do we enable that the password-based authentication? The system is in the etc ssh folder. These are all ssh settings. Whenever you are trying to connect with ssh mechanism, what is the authentication mechanism that you want to use it? So by default, password-based authentication is not enabled. That is a no. Then if we needed password-based authentication, we need to enable this. Yes. And save the file. So which file we have done the settings? etc ssh _config. Now I have enabled that the password-based authentication. But if you are enabling this, suppose if you verify this net start command, this 22 port is up and running, right? 22 is running is nothing but SSH service is up and running. But I have configured that SSH configuration. I have modified. I have modified is nothing but the service has to be restarted or not. The authentication mechanism to change it, what I have done is I have modified password-based authentication in this configuration. This configuration is belong to the SSH service. And if you do that any settings or any modification, you need to restart the service. How do we restart the services? In the service management activities, we are understanding systemctl, start,
Open
stop,
stop status like
status, restart. Yeah, with the systemctl. So first let me go for the stopping this SHD service. And let me start the SHD service. Yes, if you do that any configurations, we need to restart the service. So here we have done the configuration which belong to that SH related, that authentication mechanism. By default it is in the private key, but we don't want to use it that the private key mechanism. The first let's try to understand the passwords. How do we enable that on the system level? But how do we enable that is etc ssh _config in the configuration file. One property password authentication is a property. By default that is no, and I have changed that to yes. And after that I saved this file and I have restarted my SHD service. Now let me check the status of that SHD, whether it has been started or whether it is having any issues. Yes, that is active and up and running. We are good with that. Or we can check it with the netstart command also, right? Yes, this port is listening here is nothing but SH service is up and running. Simple. So in this system now, HTTP service is running and SH service is running. And I have done some configuration on SH, the configurations. Yeah, and I restarted. Now let me use the PuTTY tool. Let me go back and let's access the PuTTY. Now let me enter the IP address of the system. Now we'll try to use it password, whether it is allowing it or not. Yes, IP address and there is a port. Let me open and connect it and log in as each user, default user, Vagrant. Yes, now you see this, it is a prompting for the password. But before that authentication mechanism was not enabled in this virtual machine. Now we have enabled that. And what is the please mute the mic. Yeah. So now what is the password of this user is Vagrant itself. Any Vagrant machine you are going to use it, what is the default username is Vagrant and the default password is also the Vagrant. Yes, now I'm able to connect with the PuTTY. Now the remaining story executing the commands, the remaining story is the same. Which commands does we want to run it? Yes, we can use it. But using the PuTTY, how do you connect to the Linux system? With the key, if you have key, you can allocate it, go to the SH and connection and you can allocate the private key. Or if you have this the password based, by default it is prompting for the username and password, and you can open this with the, you can access this with the username and the password. But 4 properties required. What are the 4 properties? If you are connecting from the Windows system to the Linux system, what are the minimum properties that is required?
Virtual box, virtual machine,
Forget about all
SSH
the things.
client.
Forget about all
Not
the things. Virtual machine is up and running. Now you need to connect to the system.
SSH client.
So
Yeah,
how do we
SSH.
connect SSH or RDP?
Yeah, SSH or RDP. Okay, fine. But that
So
is a
then
Linux based.
yeah. So then if Linux based, we need PuTTY, host name, the user ID, password, or the user ID and key.
Yes. So that's why I'm asking this main four properties. Whether you are using the PuTTY tool, whether you're using the Git bash tool, whether you are going to use it MobaXterm, doesn't matter that. So if anyone given that was connect to the server and do some activity, first let me know the server properties. What are the properties? Yes, what is the system IP address? On which port I need to connect it? Is it SH based or RDP based? If it is RDP, you need to use the remote desktop connection. Or if it is SH port, you need to use it SH client like that PuTTY or MobaXterm or Git bash. Git bash also you can use it. Yeah, so know that the protocol, know that IP address, know that port number, and then authentication approach is required with username and with the private key or username with the password. Key-based authentication is configured or password-based authentication is configured. If it is the password-based, username and password is required. If it is the key-based, I'll come back. Key-based next, I'll demonstrate it. Key-based, how to connect it? Yes, username with the key connectivity. Is it clear now the points? Suppose now the same virtual machine, machine is running this in the virtual box or the VMware or so and so in the AWS EC2, doesn't matter that. Wherever it is running, doesn't matter that. If you have this network connectivity from about our Windows system to this server, that is enough. Network connectivity is important. But maybe machine is running this on the virtual box, or maybe machine is running on this VMware or vSphere or XVM servers, or maybe that is running on Azure, or maybe that is running on GCP, or maybe that is running on AWS. Doesn't matter that. If you are connecting to the system, yes, protocol, port number, IP address, username, either key required or password required. These are the 5 important properties that is required. Now let me try to use it using the Git bash. Suppose, let me open this new Git bash terminal. So using the Git bash, I would like to connect to the system. How do I connect it? I don't want to use the vagrant here. I would like to use it SH mechanism. Yes, as we know that SSH IP address of the system, that is 192.168.33.10. This is the IP address of the system. And the port. Port is anyway the 22. You don't need to specify that, right? Port. Now it is asking that, are you sure you want to continue connecting? So what is this meaning of this one is, whenever you are connecting first time from the system, so the system IP address, which system you are connecting that, the system, remote system IP address, it is going to add to the, or it is going to mark like as a known host. So it is going to mark like as a known host. That means second time onwards, whenever you are connecting to this IP address, okay, already one time you have connected, second time onwards, it is not going to prompt to this confirmation. So it is going to add this IP address information to the known host file. Yeah, whenever you are accessing the first time, there's any remote server, it is required continue connecting to that new host. If you say that yes, now you see that it has been added permanently, this IP address, to the known host file. That means next time whenever I'm connecting to this IP address, it doesn't prompt it, because already we have connected at least one time. The next time onwards, directly it prompts for the password. But now if you see this here, it is asking that the password, but which username it is using? Yeah, username by default, my Windows system user, it is using that, right? But do we have this user in this system? No. By default, it is taking as my Windows system. My Windows system user is G Venkat, something which is available. But in my background system, I don't have that user. So if I enter that the password also vagrant, connection closed by port. Why? This user is not available in the system. That means whenever I'm connecting to that SH, if I specify that's only IP address, okay, it is taking the port number 22, that's fine. But username, yeah, username, current shell username, it is taken that. Current username shell, I mean the current, the shell related user, it is taken that. But I would like to connect to this system with a vagrant user. Sorry about that. Yeah, I would like to connect to this system with a vagrant user. How do I use it? Now you can specify that username at the rate of IP address. Now if I try to connect to this, yes, which user it is using now? Vagrant user. Already vagrant user is available in this system or not?
Yes, we have.
Yes, that is available. Now this user related, whatever the password that is available on the remote system, you can enter the password. Now we have connected to this. This is the PuTTY approach, connecting to the system. The PuTTY is one SSH client, and I am using this now another SSH client. What is that? Git bash. But what is the protocol I'm using? SSH, and then username at the rate of which systems do you want to connect it? That remote system IP address. And anyway, port the 22. You don't need to specify that explicitly. Now I am in this virtual machine. So with the vagrant, we are able to connect it with the vagrant SSH, or with the git bash using SSH client, we are able to connect to the same system. This is another tool. And to the same system I have connected to, that's with the PuTTY also. Now if you just verify that who, yes, you see that there are the different users we have connected. It has been connected. Yeah, you see this, these two options from the Windows operating system. Yeah, this Windows system IP address. And we have this local itself, some background users which are managing that. These many sessions that have been created now, these many users. But with the different tools we have connected. Let me show that one more utility also. How do you connect or how do you access this Linux system says that is using MobaXterm. So nowadays mostly in the infras we see that is a MobaXterm. So this is also the simple utility which you can download it from the Google. Are you clear about the PuTTY and git bash? Using SSH, how do we connect it? Yeah, yes. Okay, clear, good. Yeah, thank you. Now let me go further using there's one more tool. So there are the different tools, but objective is finally SSH protocol with IP address, port number, username, and password. So another tool, which we should know this in the current market, that is a MobaXterm. So if you go for this downloading this MobaXterm, this is a very good utility. So instead of using that PuTTY, so I prefer that using a MobaXterm. That's about your choice. Which one you are comfortable, you can use it that. Yeah, we have the home editions and the professional editions. Professional edition, leave it off it. That's not required. Go for this downloading the home edition. That is a free. But you have some limited sessions, no issues. You can use it for about our activities, no issues on it. Yeah, download this. And this is also simple .exe file or MSA file. Just double click it. Next, and install it on the Windows system. Yeah, once it has been installed, here you see this is the icon, or yeah, if you could just go to the search option, and if you search for the MobaXterm, okay, so sorry, I forgot this one. So this is not available as a .exe or MSA file. This is available as a zip file. Sorry. Yeah, that is a zip file. So what you can do this is the zip file which you can just take into that some D drive or E drive and extract that zip file. So extract the zip file, and then in the zip file that will be having one .exe file. But this is not required installation. This is not the installable file. If we just run this one, then you will be getting about it MobaXterm 2. Getting the point of it, this is not the installer. So this is a .exe file. So what you can do that is you can add this .exe file to the shortcut. That would be helpful, easily or quickly to access it. Yeah, so download the zip file and take it into that D drive or E drive and extract it. And take this .exe file and drag to this shortcut to create it in your the task manager section. So I have added here the MobaXterm. Yeah, let me close all these sessions. Yeah, so this is a tool. So initially which will be having this whenever you open it. And here you can see this if you would like to connect to the remote system. Yeah, you can just click on the session. And here you see this, there are all the protocols which is supporting that. If you'd like to connect to the Linux system with SSH protocol, you can use this option. If you'd like to connect to the Windows system with RDP protocol, you can use this option. Or if you'd like to copy the files from the Windows system to the Linux, you can use it as FTP. Or even if you'd like to access the AWS S3 or normal shell command, local shell, or a telnet. So there are the different protocols which is supporting that. Now I would like to connect it to that virtual machine. I need that virtual machine which is belong to that Linux space. Yes, I need to have the SSH. Let's enter that IP address here. That is 192.168.33.10 and specify the username. What is the username? A vagrant. And what is the port? Port is 22. Anyway, SSH point of view, there's a port 22. But if it is any customized port, yes, you can define the customized port of it. Then if you click on the OK, 3 properties I have entered. And whenever I say this OK, it is asking that accept and save as additional host key or keep the existing ones. So you can say this, the acceptance of it. Now it is asking the password. So vagrant user, we are connecting with that. It is kind of SSH command, right? SSH vagrant at the rate of the system IP address. Now it is asking the password. Yes, enter the password. The vagrant. Yes, now I'm in the vagrant, the virtual machine. This is a beauty tool, the simple tool. And one more beauty what you have is if you like to copy the files from the Windows system to this Linux box. You see here you can see that downloading the files or uploading the files. That means this is kind of SFTP. Suppose I have this file, I would like to get it this copy.sh to my local system. So select the file and download Yes, where do you want to save it? Yes, I would like to save to this my the downloads. Yes, select it. And if I say this okay, yes, the file has been downloaded. And if I go to this my downloads folder, that is something OneDrive is showing that. Maybe I'm not sure. So what is the download option which I specified? Let me show this once again. Where I have specified. That is going to use it OneDrive in the desktop downloads. Okay, so instead of that, let me go ahead and yes, in this PC downloads. That is into the different drive it was uploaded. Now if I go to the downloads directly, yes, now my copy.sh file is available in my Windows system. Or if I would like to upload the file from the Windows system to this Linux operating system, I can upload directly selecting the file. Suppose I need to copy this file to the Linux operating system. Yes. So I got it the file within my Linux operating system. In the current directory, if I just use it, yes, this is a file I got it from the Windows system. So this is a beauty tool. It's a very simple tool. But if you are using the PuTTY only commands to or a terminal to exit, you can use it. But it doesn't support for the copying the files from the Windows to the Linux or Linux to Windows. You need to use it WinSCP separated. But if I use the MobaXterm, it is supporting SSH and SFTP also. And you can use it control and the mouse, this cursor, the zoom in, zoom out options to increase the font size whenever you are working. Is it clear about this tool, the MobaXterm? Yeah, multiple systems, you can connect it with multiple sessions. Or if you would like to connect to that RDP, that is Windows-based system. Yes, that is a remote host, username, and this is the RDP port. SSH port is the 22, and RDP port is that is Windows systems. If you are connecting that, RDP port is 3389. Or suppose if you use the telnet port is 23. Or FTP, as we are talking, that FTP port is 21. Even SFTP also it uses that SSH protocol. So this is one of the beauty tool which you can use it on the Windows system to connect it to that Linux or Windows-based systems or files copying. So all that operations you can perform. Is it clear about this? The MobaXterm?
Yes. No, is there any way that we can save the credentials here? That allow?
Sorry, I didn't hear you, please.
No, is there a way that it saves the credentials just by clicking it can connect?
No, it was prompted that username and password.
Okay.
And okay, suppose if I exited from here, then if you would like to restart the same session, what you can do that is, you can use it caps R to restart the session. Suppose I just exited from the session and here it is going to menu that all the sessions. So where you see that sessions. Yeah, so this is a session. And if I just click on this, and it is a password based as it has been defined, it is prompting for the password. Yes, you can enter the password. Yes, I have connected. Or suppose I exit from this session. I have exited. And if I use the shift R, that is caps R, yes, again, the session has been restarted. Then you can just enter the password and you can log into the system. Is that which you are asking that?
Yeah, that's fine. So here again, we have to enter the password, right? Like, is there an option that saves the password? Like, even when we
Okay.
just click it, it should connect. I'm just asking.
But the
Maybe.
password based it doesn't support it. I mean, so I don't see that option.
Mhm.
The editing that the session, if you go to here, you don't see that session, but here you can manage it about that, the private key option.
Okay. Mm.
Private key, I'll come back.
Mm.
If you use the private key, then whenever you click on that, automatically it will be connected. Yeah. So is it clear that? And here you can do that in the terminal font settings. Yeah, so you can go to that font settings and you can define that which font mechanism and what is the size of it. Yeah, so those settings are available. But SH key, private key also, which you can use it, and you can save this the private key. I'll come back this one later. Yeah, this is about the MobaXterm, so which is helping that to access the remote systems. That is another utility. So total, we are trying to function that the three approaches. Suppose if I go back to the terminal and if I run it, the who command, where we are running the who command in the PuTTY, right? Yes. Now you see this one more, the user session has been created. This is through the MobaXterm. Yeah, how many users are logged in? What is the command that we use it? Who? But here we have logged in with all the Vagrant users itself. Yeah, that's about how do we use it, the PuTTY tool, MobaXterm tool, or Git bash tool to access that SSH based clients with the password based authentication. But how do I define that the passwordless based authentication? And even that's in this password based also, let me talk it one more important point here in this scenario's point of view. I go for the quickly launching that's one more Vagrant virtual machine that is a Linux based. Then we'll talk it about that Linux to Linux. Now so far we are understanding that Windows to Linux, Git bash, PuTTY, the WinSCP, that is a file scoping normally, or a MobaXterm, which I have shown here. Yeah, there are the different tools which we are using so far from the Windows to Linux system. Now let's try to understand it. One system I will use it, the Linux one system, I'll use it as a client, and another system I will use it as a server. That means I'm going to launch it one more virtual machine. So already we are using this one virtual machine. Yes, this is one virtual machine. We are good. But let me go ahead launching this one more virtual machine. But one more virtual machine, how do you do that? Let me go to the Git bash and to about our workspace. This is about our workspace. So here we have this Vagrant file, right? So if I run it with this, in this location, Vagrant app, one machine which is launched. But what do I do that is, I will create one more directory, mkdir something server. I'm just creating one directory, mkdir server. And what are the Vagrant file I'm having? I'm going to take it this Vagrant file to the server folder as well as. Yeah, let me take it this Vagrant file and copy to the server folder. Now, if I go to the server directory, now I have the Vagrant file, right? But this Vagrant file, what is the system IP address that is having? Let me check it now. If I open this Vagrant file, okay, we are going to use the CentOS 8, the file. And 192.168.33.10, this is the IP address which is defined. But I don't want, already this IP address is using by one system. Now this is the second system which you are launching that. To the system, I would like to configure that IP address as a 11. 10 is my client, 11 is server. Yeah, change that IP address, remaining properties, okay, leave it as it is. And save the file. :w2, you know that v editor. Yeah, now I have this in the batch 48. One virtual machine we are launching, that's with this vagrant file. Now now I have created one more directory, the server, and I have taken the same vagrant file, but I just changed that IP address because IP address must be unique, right? The system IP address and the second system IP address must be unique. As we're talking that unique, the two houses are going to have the same house number. No, right? It's same kind of like two virtual machines we are launching is nothing but individual IP address, unique IP address. Yes, I have defined in this virtual machine 10 and in this virtual machine 11. Now let me use it vagrant up. Yes, wherever the vagrant file is located, yes, go to that location and run the vagrant up. We know that all these commands. Yes, now we are launching the second machine, second Linux system. So already we have this one Linux system. So far we are connecting Windows to this system. But now I'm going to launch it one more Linux system. So now I try to understand Linux to Linux. Are you clear these points? Yeah, we are expecting one more. The system should be up and running here. Let me check it. That terminal, is it having any errors? Okay, it is importing the box. So meanwhile, what do we do that is, as we are going to use the two virtual machine, right? The first virtual machine, whatever we are talking that the first virtual machine, I would like to define the host name as a client, and the second virtual machine I would like to define as a server. Client and a server, easy to identify that. I would like to configure the host name for this server as a client, and I would like to configure the second virtual machine as a server. How do we configure the host names? Yes, that is the next concept. Let me quickly go to that MobaXterm. Yeah, already we are accessing the system, right? This is we are going to consider as a 33.10. We are going to consider as a client. So this is the first system. The first system I would like to consider as a client. So how do you set the host name is? You can use this command sudo hostname ctl utility. And if you just run that help option, yeah, you can set the host name. So hostname ctl is a command or utility. You can set the host name. But what is the host name? I would like to set up this one as a client. That means now by default it is showing that CentOS 8 as a host name. But I would like to set this one CentOS 8 to client. Yes, run this command with the sudo permission. But still it is not updated. So still it is showing this as CentOS 8. Then what you can need to do this is one time exit. That means log off from the session and re-log in once again. Yes, now you see this. What is the host name it is having is the client. So you just run it the host name command and you will get it the host name of the system. Yeah, now this system, I would like to use it as a client. Let me check it the second system status. Where we are launching this, yes. Yeah, the second system, that is, if I verify the status, second one is also up and running. Yes, this is the server up and running. This is a batch 48, that is a one machine. This means that is a directory name. From which directory you are going to use the vagrant command, that directory name by default it is taken that. Yes, batch 48 is one directory where we have the vagrant file, and server is another directory which we have this vagrant file. Yeah, it has been started, and what do I do this is, let me yes, this is running, and let's try to apply that vagrant SSH. So this is through the vagrant if you are going to connect it. Yes, and let me edit that setting. So password enabling sudo vi, and what is the file, etc sshd_config. This is a configuration file, and let's go to that password authentication, set as yes. Where is this mouse cursor? Okay. Yeah, so I'm just setting this as yes, and let me save it, and let me restart the systemctl restart sshd. Systemctl restart hd, that is done. Now I'm going to exit from here. I don't want to use it here. Let me go to the MobaXterm. Then we can see this in single window, all the systems. Yeah, so this is one system. I'm going to use it at another session. This is for that 192.168.33.11. So with the vagrant user, would like to connect it. Yes, accept, and enter the password. But this host name is also showing the sent ways. Now this one is client. We are good. This system is no more required. This system is the client, and I would like to set the host name to the system as a server. So let me do that quickly. Setting the host name ctl set host name, and I would like to define this one as a server. Let me exit one time, and let's restart the session. That is shift R, and yes, this is the server. Okay, now we have the two virtual machines, Linux based virtual machines. One is the client. So client connecting to the server. This is the server. The client and server, two system server. But can I connect from the client to the server? First of all, whether we are able to ping to that 33.11. Yes, let's check it the ping command now. The ping is 192.168.33.11. Yes, we are able to ping it. Good. We have the communication between the client system to the server system. Or if you come back to the server to the client also, you can check it. Server to the client, that is a ping 192.168.33.11. 33.10. 10 is the client machine. Yes, we are able to do the both ways. We are good. The communications are established. That means all the systems are in the same network. Fine. Next, from this client system itself, I would like to access the remote server. So the server terminal, I would like to access it from the client system itself. How do you do that? What we can do?
Using a
SSH, right?
SSH.
Yeah, SSH. And then which user would like to use it to connect to the system? Vagrant. And what is the IP address of the system? That is 192.168.33.11. 11 is the server one. Yes, first time, yes, we are connecting from this system. It is asking the confirmation. Yes, do you want to consider as a known host? Yes. And it is asking the password. Yes, if you enter the password. Yes. From the client system, now we are in the server. Now, if I just check it, the host name, what is the host name? There is a server. Now we are in the server system. So with the SSH, I am able to connect to the remote system. This is from the Linux to Linux system connectivity. I mean, this scenario we are trying to understand it. Now I'm in this the two Linux systems. One is we are considering as a client and another one as a server. And from the client system, we are able to connect it to this server with the SSH option. And the password-based authentication. Remember that here we have configured the password-based authentication. Is it clear about that? The Linux to Linux system? Now if I exit from here, now I'm coming back to my client system. Again, if you would like to run that on the remote server, that means you don't need to go back to the system and connectivity. So from the system itself, you can access the remote systems. If I use a SSH and if I enter the password, yes, I'm able to connect with the server. Is it clear about this point? Linux to Linux system, how to connect it? The same command, even the git bash also we have used the same command, right? SH username @ IP address. That is git bash. Or MobaXterm, that is user interface. Enter the IP address, port number, username, and password. Either MobaXterm or whether a PuTTY or whether it is Linux-based terminal. SH protocol, how do we use this? But the point here it is we are using password-based authentication. That means whenever we are trying to connect it to this server, each and every time I need to enter the password. But in the automation world, are we expecting the manual intervention? So if I'm entering the password is nothing but that is manually I'm typing this the password. This manual intervention is required. Suppose I need to run some shell script connecting to the system at midnight 12 o'clock. Then you need to be ready at 12 o'clock to run the script. Whenever you are running the script connecting to the system point of view, you need to enter the password. Then only it is going to connect to the system. But we don't want that, the manual intervention. That means a password less authentication. How do we configure the between one system to another system passwordless authentication? Yeah, so now we are in the client machine. From the client, we need to connect it to the server with the passwordless. So how do we use it and what is that approach that we use it? Here it is. As we're talking about it, key-based authentication, lock and key. Yeah, SSH is supporting that keys concept. Yeah, passwordless login to configure that. You need to generate the keys first by using this command sh-key generation. Let me draw one diagram for this to understand it. So if you would like to use it between the client and servers, just so this is a client system and I would like to connect it to this server. So what are the keys that is required is, so on this system we need to have the private key, and on the system, on the remote system, which system do you want to connect it? On the system we keep that public key. So the two keys required. Suppose you are locking the door. Locking the door, yes, you need to lock the, with the key you need to lock it. Lock, everyone can see this, right? But if they would like to open it, private key, which I am having that. So if I lock it is nothing but I'm going to have this my key. The lock is a public one. Everyone can see this. Okay, it has been locked. They can understand it. That is a public one. But private key, no, we should not share it to anyone. This is very, very important. So I myself should have this private key. I should not share it to anyone. So in my personal system, that is client system, from which Windows system you are connecting that, or from which system you are connecting that, on the system we need to have the private key about our own key. But on the remote system where you are connecting that, we will be having the public key, that is on the remote server. So whenever you are planning to connect from the source system to destination system, you need to identify that the source and destination systems, and in the source system, here in our context, the client is a source. So what you need to do that, you need to generate keys. You need to generate a keys. But whenever you generate keys, it is going to generate the private key and public key. It is going to generate private key and public key, both which will be generated, this command. But private key, you need to keep it in your local system, and public key, you need to copy to the remote system. So which remote system you are going to connect it, you are planning to connect it, or suppose I may have that something 10 systems, or like 2 more systems or 3 more systems. What I can do is, private key is only one, but the public key I can copy to all the servers. So I need to copy the public key to which are all the systems you would like to connect it. In all the systems, we need to keep that the public key. But private key, yes, I should have it my source system. But if I may have the 10, 20, 30, 40, doesn't matter that. All the 10 systems or 20 systems, 30 systems, copy the public key. Then you can use it SSH without having any dependency on the passwords. Are you clear about this?
Yes, sir.
Private key, in which system we need to have it? From which system we are connecting that from? So in that system, we need to keep it private key. And to which system you are connecting that? So on the system, which key we need to keep it? Public key. But how do I get it the public key and private key? Yes, use that SSH key generation. So what is the command that we have is, suppose now here what is the servers we are going to use it is, I'm going to use the client as a from system, and my server I'm going to use it as a to system. That means I would like to configure that passwordless based communication between this system to this system, client to server. Client is source system and server is a remote system. So go to the from system, that is source system, and run that key generation. So what is the command first we need to run it is, we need to have the public key, private key. But do you have the public key, private key? So normally where this public key and private key will be stored is in the user home directory .sh folder. In the user home directory .sh folder. But we have known host file. Yes, known host file. Whenever you are first connecting to the SH with that IP address, it is asking the confirmation. So whenever you say that yes, it is adding to this file. Next time it is not prompting that. Suppose SH I'm doing that. Next time it is directly prompting for the password. But where this IP address is stored, why it is not prompted for the next time? Yes, it is storing this in the known host file. Where the known host file is located? In the .sh folder. And in the .sh folder, you see this one more file that is the authorized keys. This file contains public key. This file contains, if it are copied from other systems, yes, that system's related public key is going to have it. Suppose Vagrant SSH whenever I use it, is it password based or passwordless? Vagrant SSH whenever I use it.
No, that is passwordless.
Default.
It goes with key.
That is passwordless. Passwordless it is using is nothing but from about our Windows. Whenever we are connecting to the system, somewhere in the system that public key has to be stored, right? As we are talking that the two systems should contain the public key. Yes, in which file that public key stored is, that is authorized keys. Yes, now if you just observe that cat dot, all these files are located in the .sh folder of the user home directory. Yes, you see that this is for the Vagrant user. The public key has been saved. So that's why whenever we are running the Vagrant SSH, we are able to connect automatically with this key. If you delete this file, then Vagrant SSH doesn't work it. Or you don't need to delete the file. You just delete this the content in this file. This is the key. If the key is modified, then it doesn't work it. Suppose we have the key. Something a key has because of it fell down and it is the bent end, and we are not able to insert it to the lock, then you cannot open it, right? That means key is corrupted. If the key is corrupted, then you cannot use it that. The same thing. So if some content has been changed here, it doesn't work. So as it is, we need to use it, the keys. Okay, so where that public keys are storing that, if you copy it from the source system is, that is authorized keys. Yeah, Vagrant SSH whenever we use it, how it is working that automatically accessing that SSH is in the authorized keys for that user, the key is stored, and Vagrant in the, if you just remember that private key, we are observing that in the .vagrant folder, machines, and then VirtualBox. Private key is on the Windows system and public key is on this Linux system. But now we are going to do about our custom one. Vagrant is creating that by default. But how do we create a public key and a private key? And public key, how to copy to the remote system? Yeah, remote system, now we are going to use it as a server. And here also, if you observe that in the .sh folder, authorized keys, already we have for the Vagrant user. This public key. But I don't want to use it this one. This is for that Vagrant SH. That is Windows-based key. But from this client, Linux machine to that, this Linux machine, we would like to configure the passwordless authentication. Can I use the private key? Yes, I can use it that private key. But how do we generate the custom keys? Let me show that option. So what is the command which we can use? It is ssh-keygen. Yeah, it is generating the public private RSA key pair. So in the user home directory .sh folder ID underscore RSA. Do you want to store the private key here? Yes, just say that enter. Do you want to set the password for this? No, not required the password. Just leave it blank. Enter, enter. So now you see that public key has been saved in this file and private key is saved in this file. So if I go to the .sh folder, ID underscore RSA file, if you say that this is the private key. ID underscore RSA. So this is a private key. See, that's the content is showing like begin OpenSSH private key and end of this OpenSSH private key. So which file contains private key ID underscore RSA. And public key is also generated. This is a lock. For this lock, this is the lock. Public key is the lock and this is the key. Private key is generated. But what is the public key for it? This is the public key. So file extension .pub. .pub file contains public key. Yes, this is the public key. Now this public key I need to copy to this machine, right? Yeah, if I would like to use this private key whenever I'm connecting to the system, I need to copy this public key to all the systems, as we're talking this in this diagram. So in that dashboard, yeah. How do I copy the public key to the remote system is? What is the command we are using for SH? SH username at the rate of IP address, right? 192.168.33.11. So 11 is my target server system. So this is normal SH connectivity. But how do we copy the public keys? Same syntax, but command is sh copy. Yes, I'm going to copy that sh public key to this remote system for this user. That means whatever the .pub file content we have, that content is going to copy to this file. Which file? Authorized keys file. Yeah, now let me run it and then we'll check it about it. I'm going to do the copying the public key. How do we generate a key? ssh-keygen. After generating, how to copy the public keys? sh copy ID and which user? Yes, user at the rate of to which system do you want to copy it? That system. If I enter it, now it is asking the password, confirming. So you are copying the key. Yeah, confirmation is required. So authenticate it with the user and you see this number of keys that has been added 1. That means one key has been copied. Now we are good. Now let's, if you verify that here public key has been copied in this file, authorized keys or not. Yes, you see. So this is the key from the Linux system. And this is the key from the background Windows system. Windows system is going to use this key. But now the client, yes, we have generated about our own public key and private key. And private key in this local system, we keep it. The ID underscore RSA is the private key. But public key will copy to the target system, which system do you want to connect it. But how do you copy the public keys? Use it sh command. The same username and IP address. But command is sh copy ID. Now you can test it. This system whether you are able to connect it with the password or passwordless. Let's see that connecting to the system with the SH option. Yes, I'm going to use it SH username migrant 33.11. Now it is not prompting for any password. Are you clear about this? Now client to server, it is not prompted. That the passwordless authentication we have configured. And how it is configured? In this local system, client system, we have the private key. On the remote system, we have the public key. Whenever we are trying to connect it, this private key and this public key is going to verifying that if both keys are matched, then automatically it will work. Authentication. Is it clear this point?
Show me the copy command again. I'll just make a note.
Okay, copy command syntax. Yeah, now I'm in the server system. Let me exit. Yeah, same message command syntax. Same message command syntax. But use it. Copy ID. So once keys has been generated, you can just copy to the remote system. Yeah, you have so many times we'll get it this option like Jenkins whenever we are working, Ansible whenever we are working. And yes, we are going to automate that one system with the number of systems connectivity. During that time, we are going to use these approaches. This is one of the essential concepts for the DevOps engineer. But all these things we are going to manage it through the shell script. Even we are not going to do that running these commands one by one. So whenever we are going to work with the Terraform and shell script, everything we are going to do that automation with the scripts itself. Even this copy generation and everything. That will come back. That is the next level of that extensioning one by one. But without knowing the basics directly, if I open the system and automation scripts, if I show that, then we don't understand anything. Is it clear about that? How do we connect to the system? Suppose now I'm trying to connect to the Windows system. Suppose to this 192.168.33.10 or 11, and username is Vagrant. But I don't want to use the password-based authentication. But already Windows system is having the private key, right? Where do you have that? So wherever you have launched the system, in the D drive, if you go to that, in the workspace, yeah, patch 48. So in the .vagrant folder, machines, default, VirtualBox, and this is the private key. That means whenever I'm using the Vagrant SSH, this is the private key is getting used, and public key already copied in the authorized keys. So this private key and that public key is verifying, and we are able to connect it. That is the meaning. But today we worked with that, generating about our own key. Public key and private key we have generated, and public key we have copied. About our custom key we have used. But can I use this private key with MobaXterm? Yes, you can use it that. Let me take it this path, and let me go to the MobaXterm. Whenever I'm connecting to this Vagrant user and this IP address, but I don't want to enter the password. I would like to specify the private key location. Yes, if you have the private key, at a private key location, you can specify that. Yeah, this is expecting that .pem file format. And now if I go to here, and this is the private key, so select it and open it, click on OK. Now I didn't enter that any password. Now I'm able to connect it to the client system. How I'm able to connect it to the client system? Which key I have used? Batch 48. Batch 48 system which we are using as a client. And within the batch 48 server, we have the server which we are calling this one as, yeah, that is a different key. Yes, even I can connect it to this machine also. I can go to this .vagrant folder and machines and default and VirtualBox. I can use this private key to connect it to my 33.11, that is the server system. So Vagrant, whenever you launch the machine, Vagrant Background, what it is doing is it is generating one public key and a private key, and public key is already copying to the system, and the private key is keeping in this location. And whenever we use the vagrant SH, it takes this private key and it verifies that's with the authorized key. And if that is both are matched, automatically we are able to access the system. That is behind the concept of this. Are you clear that vagrant SH how it is working?
So is there a way that we can generate it now? For Vagrant, we have connected. So for other servers, if I have just access to a Linux host, can I generate and download the key?
Yeah, you can download it. Suppose now you can go to this system. Already we have generated in the .sh folder. I can take it and I can download this file. And I can keep this on the Windows system somewhere, the downloads. Yes, I can use it, that's fine, as a private key. Is it clear?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, these are all some points, understanding on the SSH level. So how that Windows system to the Linux, that's going to helping that. Yeah, Windows, you can use it PuTTY tool or Git bash or MobaXterm. So there are all the different tools to connect to the Linux system. And Linux to Linux system, you don't need to have it any explicit tool. About your terminal itself is the SH client. Run it SH commands and you can connect it to the system. But while connecting to the system, password-based communication and passwordless communications we have. Password-based communications, if you need it, by default it is disabled. Go to that etc sh and shd_config file and edit that the password-based authentication to yes. Then once it has been set up the yes and restart the SSH service and then come to the system and then you can try with that password-based authentication. Yeah, that is a password-based. And if you don't want that the password-based communication, then you can define that generating the keys, that's a public and private keys. And public key, you need to copy it. Do this remote server. Once it has been copied, then you can have the SSH communications without any password. Yeah, so these are all some important points. Understanding SSH communications is in the automation world, you are working with this is nothing but is configuring these public keys, private keys, and public key where do we need to have it, and private key where do we need to have it. Yes, source systems and remote systems understanding. Yeah, in the remote system public key where it is storing, that is in the authorized keys folder. And in the source system, what is the public key, what is the private key, that is ID_RSA is the private key file and ID_RSA.pup is the public key file. But if you'd like to copy it, sshcopy ID is a command, directly use it. And that will be taken that .pup file and it will be copied to the authorized keys file. Yeah, all these points that is required. But still we have some more points, that is SCP. How do we copy the files from the one Linux system to another Linux system? But already using that MobaXterm, how do you copy the files from the Windows to Linux or Linux to Windows? That's where understanding. But Linux to Linux, how to copy it is, we have that SCP command. That is, I'll conclude tomorrow. Some small, that is 10 to 15 minutes that's required. And once that is done, then we start about that user management concept. Yeah, so that's all from my side for today. So is it clear about all these points? One of the important concept, try to practice as much as you can do that, taking the two systems. Just copy the background file and create one more directory and paste it in that folder and change that IP address and use it that. Simple. So if you need to multiple systems, it is very easy. Is it clear these points? Yeah, type this, the clear, then I can understand this where you stand it. Or if there's any queries, questions, please let me know. Or if there's a confusion, just to go ahead once the video is available one more time, the referring that. But anyway, this is the concept that is a continuous activity. This is not just one time. So once we start that the DevOps tools or the AWS servers you are accessing is nothing but we need to use these tools. But directly the keys are available. But whenever I'm using that keys, you should understand that if I say the private key, okay, private key is in our local system and public key is on the remote system. If I have that concept, more enough. And password-based authentication, passwordless authentication. How do I configure it? Yes, these things, just keep this in mind and work with that. And the tools also which you understand. So try to use the MobaXterm. Or if you are good with that PuTTY or whatever the tool you comfortable, you can use it. No restriction on it. But I feel that the comfortable with the MobaXterm. That's about your choice. Yeah, good. That's all from my side. I'm going to log off for today. And I will meet and we'll continue. We'll meet shortly 9:40 and we'll continue tomorrow. Yeah, thank you. Any queries?
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.